Love Junkies, welcome back to my channel. I am KK, your number one uno love junkie, and God is love. And so, I just felt really led today to talk to you about self-love in a way that maybe you haven't heard of it before. Now, normally when we think about self-love, most people will say things like, well, I take myself to the spa, I buy myself gifts, I take myself out to dinner, I get, for us females and sometimes males, we'll be like, I got my nails did, I bought myself something nice, I hooked myself up with a little Gucci, something like that, right? When we think of self-love, a lot of times and you ask somebody whether or not they love themselves, they'll start listing off all what they think are good characteristics of themselves, and then they'll start listing the things like, self-care, right? I gave myself a mud mask, or I treated myself to spa treatments. And the thing is that has absolutely nothing to do with self-love. The reality is that all of those things are external. And as much as, we express love in the external, we experience love in the internal. And so in order for us to accurately talk about loving ourselves, then we have to talk about what's going on inside of here. You can do all kinds of things outwardly and have your inward all jacked up. I mean, is anxiety on the rise or what? Like, it is just taking over our whole world. I mean, I can't tell you how many people are reporting anxiety these days. I mean, and I love me some YouTube because, it's like taking over my cable. But I swear, all these beautiful people that I watch on YouTube, and then some, people that I know in my own life, are struggling with things like anxiety and, panic attacks and all this kind of stuff. And, we pay so much attention to externals. And even when people are trying to teach you how to love yourself, they'll tell you things like, to love yourself, maybe you just need to take a nice warm bath, right? It's all external kind of stuff, and we're just not paying attention to what's going on inside. Now, we can't experience internal love when internally we are full of other things. And what I mean by that is that if internally you are full of fear, for instance, and let's talk specifically about the fear that comes when you've been hurt. I mean, I just don't know anybody who hasn't been hurt, in this world, and everybody's got a story. Everybody is a survivor of something or another, and it's funny to me what survival means to people, or even what recovery means to people, but we'll get to that in a minute. So things like, when I'm talking about fear, I'm talking about like things like anger, resentment, woundedness. I mean, we can pop off as a victim in a minute. Just say the wrong thing. I mean, heck, my skin is an offense to half the world. So I had to really overcome that one, right? Just people popping off because you're a different skin color, or people popping off because they don't like you because of this, that, or the other thing, or trying to reject you because you don't think the way that they think, or you don't like the things that they like, or you seem strange, or, whatever their insecurities, tell them to project on you that particular day. That is a reason to cause offense. But then we've got deeper things where people are being raped or molested or being abandoned by their parents, people who are supposed to love them, being betrayed by our friends. Whoa, I can feel that one. Right? Those things really hurt. And those things are the hardest things to overcome. And once we experience that, through the eyes of a child, everything is like, whoo, we love everybody, we trust everybody, we're bringing everybody in, we'll welcome everybody to be our friend, and we have very little reservations. But once we get hurt by somebody, once they betray us, or once they, take us for granted over and over and over and over and over, right? Once they use us over and over and over and over, and let's not talk abuse. Slowly, methodically, chipping away at our self-esteem, right? And just tossing us and rejecting us like we're not worth anything, you know. Once those things happen, once it becomes, abusive, now it's, we're wounded and we're angry and we're resentful. And it's like, that for me, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, that was just the hardest thing to think about, forgiveness. Like, that was like a dirty word. Like, I was not trying to forgive nobody because it was inconceivable to me. How is it you can treat me that way? How is it as a little girl you can put your hands on me? And I'm like, I barely have, two little peas on my chest. And you calling yourself attracted to a kid and putting your hands on me and violating my innocence. But I'm supposed to forgive you. Why would I do that? Right? It was just inconceivable to me what forgiveness could. I couldn't even begin. Like, it was so foreign a concept. And we struggle with it. We just struggle because it's like that person doesn't deserve, and this is our rationale, this is our mentality, is that person doesn't deserve our forgiveness, right? The thing with that is that it causes us, to, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just back it up. Let me just a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself because the thing is that these things happen to us, and then we put on our, our recovery and survival gear, right? We get wounded, we get hurt, we get betrayed. We have these awful abusive things happen to us. And then we tell ourselves, or we try to convince ourselves, that healing means, somehow we've come out of it unscathed, right? Healing means, I can go on with my life. I mean? Yes, that happened to me, but I can go on with my life and I can be powerful. For me, I think the biggest wound that I experienced was molestation when I was a kid. And so, I just really thought I was overcoming, okay? I was really going to overcome. I was going to take control of my sexuality. Matter of fact, sexuality had control over me. I was just going to take control. And for me, it was powerful for me to be able to give my body to who I wanted, when I wanted. You know what I mean? Because I'm taking back control of that. And it was just so counterproductive because, half the time, you're not with somebody for who they are as a person or for the value that they add to your life. You're just trying to prove something to yourself that you're not really proving to yourself. You're just giving yourself like this false sense of power. The thing is that you cannot have something, you choose to hold on to and then make like you don't have it. Like, okay, I can't take this little thing, right? And here's my hand and put it in my hand like that. I can't have this in my hand and try to pretend that it's not there. You know what I mean? If I have it and I'm choosing to hold on to it, it's going to stay where it is until I choose to let it go. I either let it go and it's not in my hand and I'm free then at that point to pick up something else, or I choose to hold on. It's one or the other. But this is what we do, like when we're hurt. We're holding on to this, and who are they? And they don't deserve for us to forgive them, so we're holding on to dear life. But then we're going to try to convince ourselves that we're not really holding on, right? No, and I forgive them, forget them. But you know what? I don't need them. I don't need them, and I don't have to forgive them in order to move on with my life. I can move on. I could be healthy and whole and move on with my life. Really now. Let's talk about that for a minute. As I'm holding on, see, this is my heart, okay? And inside my heart, I've got this little beep and blep, blue light, unforgiveness going on in there, right? And for now, I'm just holding it. But in a minute, as long as I keep on to it, it's going to now become a part of my DNA. It is now going to shape the way that I view the world, where once I did not view the world in this way. So all of a sudden, now I'm angry. I'm making like I'm not angry. It's not in there, but it's in there. So now all of a sudden, I find myself in things like impatience. Now all of a sudden, I don't have no time to be waiting for nobody to do nothing. So I'm honking at people on the road. I'm cussing folks out behind my wheel. You know, they don't know what's going on, but I'm all up in my feelings, and I'm angry and I'm impatient. I don't have time to be waiting in lines. I'm sucking my teeth and rolling my eyes and creating an environment around me that's uncomfortable for other people to be around. You know, I don't have no patience and no time for nobody and not myself, so I'm constantly irritated, right? I'm irritated and I'm agitated. And now I'm also hypervigilant because I've been hurt now. See, now I've been hurt and I've been wounded. So hypervigilance is when, like, you are constantly assessing danger in everybody and every situation you find yourself in. So you can't even do anything as simple as go to the grocery store without assessing. Okay, we got the parking lot. What's going on? Right? Where are you parked? How far away is it from the exits? You know, who is parked next to you? Is it a white van? You know, right? We're female, right? Is somebody gonna come kidnap me? Am I parked next to a van? Am I parked next? What am I? You know, what's going on? You know, so you scanning out the parking lot for danger. Right? You scan people for danger, whether it's strangers, which is quite easy, or those who are not strangers, which is not so easy. And so what happens is when we start assessing people that are not strangers, people that we are in relationship with for danger, we become self-righteous because we're judgmental now. Now we're assessing them. Now we're fault-finding in our relationships and bringing division. Because now I always got something to say about the things about you that I don't like because they scare me, because I can't control them. See, when I'm hurt and I'm popping off and now I'm hypervigilant and I am assessing every situation, every person, whether I know you and I don't know you, for danger, now I become the judge and I've got to look out for me. I got to look out for number one, you know, because obviously nobody else is going to do it, or if somebody else would have, I wouldn't have gotten hurt, right? We're always trying to go back and correct that wrong. You know, it's still in our hand. We still got it, right? Now it's a part of our DNA. Now it's a part of our makeup. And the thing is, we become this way, and it's a product of what's going on in our hand, but we convince ourselves that it's not. And we'll tell ourselves things like, I'm just real. I'm just real. Okay? And if I'm telling you that you ain't appreciating me and I'm not going to put up with it, it's because that's real. That's 100, boo. I am not going to put up with that. Right? Or if I'm telling you that you never do enough, you don't say things in the right way, or you don't do things the way I think it ought to be done, or you never do anything for me that brings value or adds value to my life, and I'm just always picking at you. How come you're not picking up your clothes? How come you're not doing this? And how come you're not doing that? Why I always got to tell you? And and I'm going, right? Now that hypervigilance has become now fault-finding in my relationships. It's become division in my relationships. It's become strife. Now the door is open in my life for things like gossip and backbiting, because it's all about control. And people are scary because I can control maybe me and what's going on with me and how I project myself into the world and who I choose to how I choose to treat people and how I don't. And most 9 times out of 10, I can choose to treat them with respect, hoping that I'm going to get that back. But I can't control the other person. But we try. And that's where things like division and gossiping and backbiting come into play, because they're all a form of control. Because it's fear-based. We've been hurt. There's fear living in here and all this unforgiveness going on from something that I experienced way back when. Now I got all this unforgiveness and resentment sitting in here, and I'm making like it's not there. And the more I deny it, the more it becomes a part of my DNA. And now, you know, I find myself at work and I'm gossiping about so-and-so at work. Because there's something going on in that person or in their character that scares me, that intimidates me, that brings up my insecurity. So now I got to talk stink about you. And I got to give you the stink eye, right? And I got to try to alienate you somehow socially so that I can feel comfortable because I can't control you. And believe me, I've tried, right? And we don't see this. We don't see the connection. This isn't even, as far as we're concerned, this unforgiveness not even in there. It's not even in there. I'm going on with my life. I am healed. I am doing it, boo. I am woman, hear me roar. The lies I tell. The lies I tell. And when my relationships ain't working out right and I'm boo-hooing and I can't figure out why, but I still can't forgive that fool who put his hands on me at age 5. And I can't forgive myself for letting it happen. But I don't know why all this other stuff is going on in my life. You know, it's one thing when people come into our lives and they hurt us and they abuse us, right? Because then we get to take on that victim mentality, right? And now we're the victim of just everybody. Oh, it's always their fault. It's what they did to me. Here's the thing. It isn't your fault. The things that happen to you, it's not your fault. But somebody, who was that? I think it was Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen and, who is it? Joyce Myers are two of my favorites. Oh, talk about some love lessons. They'll tell it to you. One of the things that Joel always says is that it's one thing for things to be going on outside, for the problems of the world to be going on in your life. It's another thing for those problems to get on the inside of you. And Joyce Myers will always say things like, your problem is not your problem. Your problem is your attitude towards your problem or your response to your problem. That's your problem, which is true. It's very, very true. And it's pretty much exactly what I'm talking about today. But the thing is, we don't see forgiveness as self-love. Because we want that other person, the person who hurt us, to suffer for what they did to us, for causing us the suffering and the pain. But the thing is, just like me being molested when I was a kid, that happened years ago. I'm a grown, if you can't tell, I know I'm cute, no, but I'm a grown woman. You know, I'm not 5 years old anymore. So for me to hold on to this is now destroying other parts of my life, because somebody's going to pay. I'm going to be self-righteous, I'm going to be self-finding, and I'm going to be judgmental. You know why? Because somebody has to pay. Somebody has to pay. And let me tell you, somebody does pay for what happened to you. When you hold on to that, that person who molested me, he's long gone, living his life, you know, doing him. I'm sure I barely even crossed his mind. But here I am all these years later, right? Needing to heal, living with it, right? Making like I'm not. All my relationships is all bust up. Angry, right? And so the other thing that comes up when we talk about, you know, trauma and woundedness and, you know, anger and even this painful concept of forgiveness is recovery. And the funny thing about recovery, it's just so opposite, you know, because recovery, after trauma, you know, we go on this mission of recovery, you know, to accept what's happened to us. And then we say things like, I'm so grateful, I'm just recovered. I hear people say this all the time, because what I went through made me who I am today, you know. And that's just become the blanket, you know, champion statement for recoveries. Oh, what I went through made me who I am today. Well, let me tell you, if your pain has now defined who you have become, you haven't recovered anything. You have gained a new perspective that is hindering your life, and you don't even see it. Your pain has now defined how you see people. It's defined how you approach people, and it defines how you allow people to approach you. And so now you've got walls that other people now have to work really hard to try to break down. Let me tell you, people get tired. This is not the day. This is like McDonald's, Burger King day and age, and ain't nobody got time to be like trying to get some wire cutters to love you. Okay, ain't nobody trying to do it. This is not the day of the valiant, rescuing, man on the white horse. Well, he'll do anything to show you his worthiness, and he'll climb any mountain. And God, I wish those days were still here if it's still the truth. But it ain't. It's over, sis. I don't know what happened through the years, but we have to accept that day is coming gone. But the thing is that is that that's not recovery. When you talk about recovering, you're talking about regaining. So that means that something was lost. So what was it that you had before the trauma, before the offense, before the betrayal? Like, what is it you had before all of that that you need back? That is what, because all this other stuff, let me tell you what you're trying to give yourself. You're trying to get your power back, and so trying to control others, the fault finding, the gossiping, the being easily agitated, impatience, and with yourself and others, all that stuff that goes on because you've got all this anger and resentment living inside. You don't know what to do with yourself, that you lying to yourself about. All of that is just giving you a false sense of security, a false sense of power. And we think that what we had before the trauma, before the incident, was power. What we think in our mind is that we had the power to make it not happen. And somehow we just lost that power. We just got to get back that power to make bad things not happen, which is a lie. Because regardless of how powerful you are as a person, good things and bad things happen to all people, regardless of how good or bad they may be. This is not a matter of power. What you had before the trauma, before the drama, before the betrayal was peace. You had an inner peace that allowed you the freedom to view the world through its possibilities, and not the fear that came that caused you to view the world now through its restrictions and limitations because of what happened to you. So you lost that inner peace, and what you want back and what you need back is your peace. And peace is a gift you give yourself when you choose to forgive. It's not about the other person and what they do. Because if you're honest with yourself, there really isn't anything that person can really do to make up for what they've done. There really isn't. Especially when you've been hurt pretty deeply. Especially when you've been violated on some pretty core levels. There really isn't anything that person can really do. At some point, you have to let go. A lot of people choose not to. But then again, there's a lot of people living without their peace. Peace is a gift you give yourself when you love yourself. When you love yourself enough to allow your inside, your inner sanctuary, your inner atmosphere and environment to be at peace. You give yourself the freedom to see the world through its opportunities once again. And forgiveness is just letting go. Now, there are some very practical things you can do to make that happen, and I will definitely address that in another video. I just wanted to kind of get the idea and the concept out there because it's so hard to kind of wrap our mind around forgiveness, let alone forgiveness as one of the #1 tools of loving yourself. It's time to get your peace back. Okay, Love Junkies, so thank you so much for watching this video. If you are interested in more, please comment down below and let me know what you're thinking, what's on your mind, the heart pricks that kind of came up as we talked about this, and maybe some questions you might have about moving forward. I so love sharing this with you today, and remember, God is love. Bye.